it going? Just chilling here. Let's wait a little bit and we'll see who pops on and go from there. Looks like the ratings for October 12th through 16th just dropped. And dropped is a good word for it. Because, man, that's some things there. It was overall a good soapy week. See here. All right. So I'm looking at the ratings right now. Days hit an all-time low of 1,537,000. Yikes. Just just yikes. It's hard for days to do anything. The women 1849, 12th straight week low. Tied low for women 1834. It's just that's not good. Not good at all. I see a couple people watching on Periscope. Hey, or I guess Twitter. Hey guys, if you're bored and you want to join in, I do actually have some Google Meets information. Let's see if I can just post that in the chat here. Copy. There we go. Posted some information in the chat. So if you are listening and you want to join in, talk, you can. That's what I'm here for. Or got questions or anything else, let me know. Because I'm down to talk soaps, down to talk Big Brother, the mess that season is. And just gonna see where it goes from there. Well, now I'm talking to myself. That's okay. Favorite house guest. Okay. Well, if it's just gonna be me chilling here for a minute, you know what? I may hello to those watching on Periscope. Till somebody jumps on here, let's see. I may also stream a little bit of Among Us while I wait and see what's going on. But uh, those ratings are trash. Like, not good at all. But overall, I will say I actually did like this week on the shows. Actually, all four of them. B&B was a mannequin disaster. Days like actually entertained me. GH surprisingly is probably the show I'm enjoying the most. And YNR, I mean, YNR had some actually good scenes. So overall, I actually enjoyed this week a lot. So I was pleasantly impressed. See, we're up to 4 people watching. So if you want to jump on and join, there is instructions on how to join the call now in the chat. So if you want to jump on there and join in, you can, or ask whatever questions you want, and I will answer them. I will say the thing with YNR that got me the most, and I just saw somebody respond to it on Twitter, was the on-screen graphics and how they're like having Faith talk, using words like "you cool" and "totally see you soon." It's like that nobody talks like that. Like, stop trying, YNR. Like, it's not that big a deal. And oh gosh, I mean, if you are listening to this, then chances are you are at least familiar with the fact that I love Hollyoaks. And it was the 25th anniversary this week, and we got Silas back, and it was so good. The only soaps I have not finished watching this week are the Aussie and New Zealand ones, but I plan on finishing that up at some point tonight. So that's kind of my plans there. But yeah, just kind of gonna sit here and talk and look at it. If you got any questions, drop them in the chat. You got want to join in on the conversation, you are free to dial in and join us, and we'll kind of just hang out and chill. So that's what we're gonna be doing right here. Um, Looking at Digital Spy now, seeing what content, any news dropped. They wrote an article talking about how the soaps have responded to the Black Lives Matter uh, movement, and I will say I was actually kind of disappointed in what the show has become. Um, it just nobody responded, in my opinion, really well overall to Black Lives Matter uh, content. So let me see. Post this. Cool. Started tweeting out some instructions. I just say Among Us to TikTok. Is that what I got as? Yeah. You know what? Fair enough. We will just stream some Among Us then. Same time. I'm not upset. That's probably why people are tuning in and then like, where's this Among Us content you've been talking about? Fun game. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's see if I throw can capture it. I was in the problems with this. There we go. Okay. Let's see. All right. So let me go around. Hello to whoever's watching on YouTube. I'm just kind of messing around at this point. So I looked at the soap ratings for the week, got really depressed. Watched the awful news stories that are coming out about B&B and the whole mannequin disaster, and my YouTuber's gone, so it's okay. Now I'm just playing Among Us because it's what we do. So up to 5 people. Ooh, snap. And now we're down to 4. Let's see. There we go. David wants to. Okay, let me see here. Where, there we go. Copy join information. Boop. All right. Also, my phone. We should fix that. There we go. I'm gonna leave this game and switch into another. All right. Over here. Mm-hmm. 7. So there's at least a good chance I'll get somebody to join here. Hello to everybody watching on Twitch, YouTube, Periscope, all 9 yards. Just kind of joining in, playing some games, waiting for people to jump in and talk. If you got any questions about TV shows, soaps, daytime, primetime, reality, whatever it may be, hit me up in the comments and chat room, and I will gladly answer those. Till I think we're gonna have David jump on here in a minute. Till then, I'm just kind of playing some Among Us. And going from there, I think D's going to join. So we'll have her on. And then, let's see. Anybody else left me something? Maybe Caleb. And there we go. Hello, David. How are you? I'm doing great. It's been honestly not a bad weekend at all. It's been, I've enjoyed it. It's been kind of rainy here, but I've been lazy and watched the soaps and watched TV and just kind of relaxed. So it's been a good week. That's kind of the good thing about the pandemic. The only good thing is we've gotten time to sample some new stuff and old stuff and kind of get reacquainted, I guess, with some good content because I feel like you kind of get in a rut. And it's easy to fall months behind. Hmm. I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk about primetime list. My primetime list is it's a lot. I finally finished watching This Is Us season 4 this week because well season 5 starts here soon, and I was like, okay, well I'm just gonna sit down and just do it. And it's not for lack of trying. I think my problem is I can't watch week to week anymore. It's just for a lot of TV network TV, it's the lack of consistency in the scheduling. It's the being on for 4 weeks and then taking 2 weeks off and then coming back for a week and then taking time off. Like I do really well at the start of every TV season, and I will keep up for the first few weeks, and then whenever they do the first hiatus, I just fall behind and I never catch up because I break that habit, and once that habit's broken, it's hard for me to like fix it, and I don't there's no reason why. It's just kind of the way my TV viewing's been for the last few years.
With it was Scandal.
Ooh,
And
yeah.
yeah, because that's predicated on the cliffhangers and just their promos alone. Like if you don't watch live this week, then you're gonna miss whatever Olivia
Mm,
Pope or
mhm.
or whatever twist is gonna happen. And but everything on that lineup, like Grey's Anatomy, I always every year I'm like, oh, I'm finally gonna watch this season, and then you fall off. Like everything you said was everything I feel like. I get really excited for the fall TV season, map out all the new shows that I'm gonna watch, and then I just fall off after two episodes.
Yeah, I need to catch up on Grays. That's another one.
Yeah.
Like I think I'm a few seasons behind right now. It's
Oh, I'm
I
all over the place
and
with
then I
that
never started the spinoff, the fire station
the
one.
private.
No,
Oh,
I
the
finished.
fire.
I watched all Private Practice. It's the fire station. Was Station 19?
Yeah,
That
Station 8.
that one I haven't started yet.
I don't know. What do you think is like just the promotions and the promos and everything? I've never really been a firefighter type of person, so that's why I'm like, but I did do Lone Star on Fox.
How did you like that?
Lone Star is it's crazy. Like, it has that Ryan Murphy type of network OMG to it. Like he does like packs so much crazy stuff into it. I never watched the original 911 that it's spun off from, but I like Lone Star, I guess, better than I guess the promotional aspect of it. I liked how it was promoted, so that's what got me
Yeah.
tuning into it. But I liked it.
I haven't. I watched the first bit of the original 911. I liked Connie Britton on it, so that's kind of why I gave it a shot. Um,
She's
but
fantastic.
I was wanting to tune into the Lone Star spinoff and kind of see how it goes because everything I've heard about it, I said the cast seems phenomenal. The
Hmm.
promotion for it always seems interesting. So it's definitely one that I need to check out here soon.
Yeah, and the relationships and the interactions and um, the topics that they managed to intercede within the show. Plus, just the Texas culture of it all. I thought it was really neat how they t- weaved everything. And I believe season one's only 12 or 13 episodes.
I think it was something like that. It wasn't long at
Yeah,
all. It was a mid-season
which I
show, right? I think 10
yeah, it was a
episodes. Yep,
mid-season, which I
10
kind of
something.
appreciate because I'm watching Ally McBeal right now,
Okay.
um, and I'm having a hard time right now trying to finish.
Yeah, that's one I never watched Ally McBeal, but I've heard good things. It's on Hulu now, right? Or one of those
Yeah,
streaming
yeah.
services. I, I'm not even gonna say at some point. It's one of those that I think I would be interested in seeing, but I don't ever think I'll get around to it.
No, I was definitely the same way. Like, so many, well, a few people recommended it to me over the years. I had a teacher that watched it, and I don't know, kind of like I would always see it on Netflix or Hulu, and I'm like, I'm not sure if that, because it has that surrealism, that those quirky type of characters, and it's just very bizarre mixed with David E. Kelly's.
Well, I was gonna say it's David E. Kelly, and that's what he's kind of known for, right? It's the whole like slightly goofy, slightly. Uh,
Yeah, and those preachy monologues.
hmm does
You
he
know,
actually have anything going right now? I don't.
I was actually surprised to find out he did Big Little Lies, but he actually has a show on HBO coming out on Sunday with Nicole Kidman. I think it's called The Undoing.
Interesting.
Yeah, and he also has a new
Undoing
show on
Big Sky.
ABC. Yeah, Big Sky, and
Interesting.
so I'm like, wow. I think the one thing that blows my mind about David E. Kelly is he writes all of his scripts,
Does
and
he?
especially yeah, and I'm like, if you're doing like 3 to 5 shows at a time, which at the time when Ally McBeal was airing, he did practice, and I think it was Boston Legal that
Hmm
came later, and just doing all these different shows, and I'm like, wow, that's usually it's rare. You don't find many writers who writes every episode,
The
unless it's like a Tyler Perry
That's what I
or
was gonna say. The difference
yeah,
is we have. I think David E. Kelly's has a little bit more quality than that of say
exactly.
a Tyler Perry, because
Oh
bless his
my
heart. Like
god.
I very much support that man's work ethic.
No, absolutely
I just
same,
want
but
him to have, like, I want him to set these shows up and then step away. Like,
exactly.
like
Just
let somebody else with a vision and like let him be an overall like story idea guy. Like he can be like,
hey, so let's do a show based in the Oval Office, and that's where he stops. Like
Yeah. Oh,
that's where his involvement's over. Let somebody else take on the scripts. Let somebody else take on these stories because they have great concepts, but the
yeah.
execution is just. Ugh.
Oh, like I watched Haves and the Have-Nots till I tortured myself.
I couldn't do it.
Watched them when I was in high school when the show came out, so I think it was like freshman year of college. I'm like, no, I can't do this anymore. I think when I got to college, I started critically assessing all the shows. So because when you turn your brain off to a lot of television, you don't see the problems there. You're kind of just, enjoying or letting all the dumb mistakes kind of pass you by and the stereotypical, storylines, but even the dialogue and the character archetypes that were just very problematic.
I was in college when it started, and I was so already just burnt out on daytime writing at that time,
Oh,
because it felt very much like what Bold and Beautiful and Passions, like it felt like it was talking down to the audience. Like you didn't expect the
yeah.
audience to have the intelligence to understand how people really speak, and it does what I call, I guess, soap dialogue, and it's very much just this talking down to your audience nature that they did. And I love Tika Sumpter, and I wanted to watch it for her, but like I did just no, like it just wasn't good, and I can't turn off my brain for that many hours.
No, same. I
And
I
then he just
think
kept making more shows. He kept
Oh, it's terrible. Oh, I think you know what it was. I think I was watching week to week. I never actually, and that's the difference, right?
uh huh.
Watching week to week versus binging. Like a lot of shows that I see that people normally would binge, and normally I would watch week to week. Like they would pick up on a lot of the problems. Whereas if you're watching it, I guess week to week, for that just that hour, but it does kind of work flip flop. Like if you do watch week to week, like you do see a lot of the problems if you are going in critically assessing.
Mhm. I would
So
agree with that. I would agree with that 100%. But it's
and
it's interesting to see, and I'm curious to see what he does now because there was an article that came out. I think it was this week saying that he kind of wanted to take a step back from
I
writing.
read, yeah, I
Yeah.
read that, and a part of me is just like, sir, you are a bullshit face
I
lying.
mean, I will believe it when I
uh,
see it.
exactly. Like I don't. I would love to see what a Tyler Perry production without Tyler Perry looks like. Um, like you said, set up the premise, be there almost like a storyline consultant,
Hmm.
and just let's fresh new talent take over your project.
Because he
Like
knows how to
again,
make these shows on a budget. Like
oh,
he
he
can do it
does.
on a dime, and that's something like I don't need a splashy budget for these shows, but like I would love to see Tyler Perry like honestly take on a soap. Like it doesn't need to be one of the four that's established, but he could create his own and just let it run because he can. They would film it all in a weekend, and just like
Frank
it
Valley.
would air exactly, and it would air over the course of a year. But he's got that production down, and I would like to see somebody with script writing talent actually take on the dialogue and take on that, and then let Tyler just take on the production side of things.
Yeah, I'm the even from a set perspective, like he gets that. It's almost like watching a theater play, and I feel soap operas in the 70s were a lot like theater plays. So aesthetic wise, if you are going to do a soap and shoot it like a soap, like do that many episodes, you got the style right.
Hmm.
But now it just comes down to the overall vision, creatively, writing, and to take all of that on, writing all those scripts because his episode orders are very akin to like primetime soaps in the 90s where they would get those 30 to 40 episode orders, which are just insane to me that anyone could do that now. But also to be directing, which I will say visually the shows look a lot better. Like I feel like there's color correction within the show now. But the directing choices, which are very similar to daytime soaps, the American ones are very lackluster, uninspired, and you just
It's like they just step on to set. The cameras are set where they're shooting,
yeah,
and then they're done. There's no creativity in the
there's not
shots,
much
in
of
the
a
way that they're told.
direction.
There's no direction. It's just like, all right, hit the mark and go, and that's it. And it just kind of when I see what they could be, that's why I think I'm so hard on them. Is because I know they could be better, and yet what we get's what we get.
So I feel like ever since discovering Hollyoaks, I've tweeted, thanking you, Ryan, Corian, Ashley. Ever since I think I binged July 2019 to present day.
It's
Actually,
good.
within 2 months, like I actually finished the day Hollyoaks came back from
That's
their
awesome.
break. It was so good. Like I feel like I'm not even watching a soap sometimes. I'm
And
just
that's what's cool about it is you don't. Hollyoaks is a lot. Like
it
emotionally,
is
watching like that much that you just put yourself through, that's a lot to watch.
mm,
But it's right now, in my opinion, it's a very good story to binge and then watch like that. And it's weird to go from that high level of expectation from having show episodes where like depending on who the director is, like you're getting really artistically told show through the camera's lens to the dialogue like and then go from that to Bold and the Beautiful.
Bold and the
And
Beautiful has never been my
uh,
show.
it,
I don't know. Like
it's
last
no,
time
it's
I
really
watched
good.
last time I watched it was 2011, and I was in middle school at that time. So
It's awful.
and it's really bad. And like I'll keep touch to see what's happening, even on the shows I don't watch. Most of the American shows I don't watch.
I
You
don't
know,
blame you. They're-
there's too much time and aggravation and anger and you know criticism, and then to see that there's a lack of representation
Mhm.
across all the board and they just live within their utopian worlds that doesn't reflect our world
Yep.
and they're not reflecting what's happening in society or even touching on you have these scenes where it's very awkward where everyone's 6 feet apart but you're not incorporating any type of you don't even need to say COVID. Hollyoaks and was it EastEnders? They just referred to the lockdown that
Yep.
happened over
They say
months.
lockdown. It was just
You
lockdown.
don't
That's it. And then, but you still see there's scenes where, like Hollyoaks has done a really good job with the surrogacy story, where you have characters taking off their mask right before the scene starts, or right
love
as
that.
they walk into the room. Like it's not, they don't make a big deal about it, but it's representing real life without hitting you over the
Exactly.
head. It's still escapism, but with those subtle
Mhm.
touches. And that's what pisses me off about, for example, General Hospital. Like your show set in the
Oh,
hospital, and yet you refuse to even acknowledge that this is an ongoing thing, and it just blows my mind.
it blows my mind too because they always say, within these interviews or press releases, oh, we're going for escapism. I I'm actually someone who doesn't want that because when you start saying that you want escapism, well, then you kind of lend yourself into this hole where you don't reflect the real world. You don't reflect what's going on, and you get into a habit and a problem of repeating Back from the Dead's, baby switches, and the numerous soap tropes that are repeated constantly. Um, Almost to nauseum over the past 5, 10 years that have put these shows to where they're all homogenized, they're all the same because you're moving producers, writers that have worked on other shows all days of our lives, just the writing staff. I look at the writing credits, it's all past soap head writers.
Mm-hmm.
And and even directors, they all go from soap to soap, and just a lack of visual detail or what is this scene trying to convey to me? Like Bold and the Beautiful is so laughable with these when they do a close up on the faces and they pull into a kiss. I'm like, no one wants to watch this. This is so laughable. This is so bad. This is where you land on the soup again.
Yeah, dude, it would on 100% if the soup was still on. This is what would be on it.
Oh,
And what makes me annoyed is I'm a big believer in just do the fade to black. Like if you're
yes.
not gonna show it, you can imply and do a lot with just subtle like hints at what happened. And that's not like they feel this need that they have to show us. I'm like, well, no, it's okay. You don't have to do that.
I think all of them need to just go take a film class and go watch old movies and see, like,
I have a
just
bad take on this because I love the shows and I love the genre, but I'm also of the opinion like I'm ready for these four to die. Like
I,
I'm okay with them dying, and then not the genre dying, because I want them to rise from the ashes and have something just be. They're so far gone from what they once were and what they
I,
can be, and I feel like the only way they're going to resurrect themselves is if they actually die.
I was thinking about that too because many times if you put that out into the Twitterverse, into soap Twitter, oh, I'm ready for these four shows. You get like the mob of soap
Yeah.
Twitter. Oh, don't say that. But I was thinking about that too today because lately, even during the summer, I was thinking I've been changing my thinking, my perspective, because I think that's important when critically assessing these shows because I don't like some of the criticism, like the normal criticisms that they get because I feel like if you don't kind of stretch your thinking when it comes to these shows, well, then how can you expect it to be better? Especially when the arguments on most of these shows just end up devolving into, character. My character's better than your character, or my couple's better than your couple. And you're kind of just buying into what they want you to do. And it proves for a dumb, vain, shallow conversation than actually picking apart what needs to be picked apart. So yeah, I'm also in agreement with you. I love General Hospital. I love Days of Our Lives. I think I tuned out regularly out of General Hospital when Ron left and Ron's last year was
It was
pretty
bad.
terrible.
It was
Yeah,
bad.
and
It, I think you can tell when people the interference was going on. And you could tell
yeah,
that he wasn't getting to tell all the stories the way he wanted to, and then he just kind of, I feel like he kind of gave up near the end, and it just
he
wasn't,
did.
it wasn't fun to watch. I don't think he needed to be fired, but I think he needed a break.
I think you can tell when Ron's being interfered because I remember 2010 of One Life to Live. That was like the year where it kept shifting. You had the beginning of the year, then you had the Mitch Lawrence and Messica, and then it kind of devolved in the middle of the year where it was kind of in a standstill, and then kind of and then the Ford brothers, and there were just so many shifts that year, and 20, and then fast forward to 2015 of its last year at General Hospital, you kind of saw it was being interfered, but he also started going off the rails too. But I understand, how can you balance all of that, especially when you have a vision for the year and then you're being told to do a live show. There were all these random decisions being made.
I forgot about
And
the live
then,
show.
oh, it was,
Until you
yeah.
mentioned that, I forgot that existed.
It was just very, what the, like, what is happening here? And oh, and the Luke story, with the fluke Luke. I actually don't mind. I know it was a controversial story among the fans. I didn't mind the fluke story. I'm not a fan of Tony Geary or Luke Spencer as a whole. Um,
My
but
biggest issue with that is the fact that you can tell where it had so many different rewrites and so many different like points that the story didn't feel cohesive at all,
yeah,
and it just was a mess near the end.
because you thought you were led to believe, because they were going on this. They were going on this journey where you were led to believe, oh, Bill Eckert, and all the clues and signs were there, and even the skeleton. I remember,
Mhm.
but there were all these mentions of Bill Eckert,
Out of
even
nowhere
when,
too.
yeah, and when Tony was playing him that way, and then boom, they just went this almost this Fight Club Mr. Robot type twist, where now it was actually Luke doing all of it himself, and but just a lot of missed story opportunities even after Ron left. Like I say, we should have, Jason should have never gotten his memories back. Maybe he should have became Jason Quartermain, and just that journey of just discovering who you used to be and then who you became after, and then taken in by Sonny and Carly, and kind of navigating the world and all those years that you missed. But and
Didn't
I'm
have to
sorry,
be
what?
no, and I feel like they could have done just a much better job. That's all.
Yeah, and uh, even just discussing General Hospital is just frustrating. But even when they brought Steve Burton back, so many missed opportunities, because that's very similar to Tale of the Two Todds, verbatimly, or Tale of the Two Romans,
Mm-hmm.
Roman and John Black. But they benefited from, they actually benefited from that story, because with Tale of the Two Todds, you had Trevor St. John leaving um, shortly right after the reveal. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think Wayne Northrop left shortly after too.
Wayne Northrop was there for like a little bit. Like he was not gone like this one with Todd. He was there for like a couple years, but then he left. Like he didn't stick around too long, to the point that people are still mad that they even told that story, and that made Roman John, because like it only lasted, I think it was 2 years, 3 years maybe.
Right, right. And he fell in love with Isabella, I think, right after.
Correct. Yep.
That's where, oh, wow. Um, yeah, they could have had so much opportunity to, borrow from those stories, but borrow from where those stories didn't go. You could have set up with Jason versus Drew, and kind of, instead of tying into the tired beats of Jason back in the mob, I mean, you missed 4 years of your life. The story kind of writes itself. Yeah, it was 4 years, and you were in Russia, and it was a Russian clinic, right?
Yep,
If
it was.
Yeah, and you could, I mean, me, I would have always tied, kind of events to what's happening. Like Anna and Robert would be like, dealing with, election interference, and the whole point of Russia. I guess I would have tied into election hacking, but that's, I guess, too much for the American soaps to actually tackle real topical stories happening right now, especially when I think they can do it and they are the show that can do it. But
Well, there was somebody that I think the locker room said they're doing a reunion for Capital, and it was
oh,
like, I would be really interested in seeing like a Capital reboot or something like now, because I haven't, well, obviously wasn't around then and didn't get to watch it at that point, but that's one of the shows that I always thought was really interesting and could tell like some cool stories in a modern take, because like, could you imagine telling a soap based in the White House right now?
oh yeah, like political intrigue in DC, and the
Mhm.
and with the far right, trying to steal the White House, a president being tied to extremist groups, and just the rhetoric, and the him always tweeting. I think you could do so much with that.
Yeah.
I don't know if as a daytime, so these daytime shows are
Oh,
very homogenous and they're too safe.
yeah. No, I don't know that I trust our shows to do it, but I wish they would. Like I
Yeah,
have a much bigger like want for them or expectation for them than they tend to provide.
because they always go this crazy route, right? With Days of Our Lives, and with the amount of crazy storylines, just seeing that clone spoiler for next week, and I mean, with the amount of science fiction that they do, you kind of wonder. Oh, but also I saw it on General Hospital with Robin and her immortality serums, that can just bring everyone back from the dead. And well, Ron also did Andy's serum, but
Yeah, I Days is I again my heart. I love Days, but like, oh, they're making a lot of choices right now,
oh,
because this whole, from the maybe rate to the just the blackout story to just uh, everything about it just makes me shake my head.
it's just seeing what I'm seeing, because I left off. Right after Ben was revealed to be alive. That episode. So I haven't watched most of August or September, but I always follow the show and what's happening. And just seeing how Allie's rapes, the maybe rape storyline, or just seeing the perspective and how it's not on her, or and we're moving to Trip and how he feels.
Hmm.
It feels very familiar with how Ron writes rape stories,
He just
but as a
shouldn't.
whole, he shouldn't, and he's done this over and over. But he is that type of writer. He doesn't learn from his mistakes, and I love Ron, but I don't think he's above where he should be critiqued the hell out of, because he does for all his good, he does a lot of problematic stuff,
Hmm.
and a lot of I kind of put him in the same boat as James Riley, where he's not like on a Bill Bell level of thought out, methodical, psychological storytelling. He's on a James E. Riley level for me. So I and it kind of goes into that conversation. Well, do we want our soaps to be socially relevant, or should they just stay away from social issue stories? Because with the way he did, Theo's shooting
Mm-hmm.
and how that turned into um, JJ's perspective, dominating that story and a Blue Lives Matter type of storyline where you sympathize more with JJ and the perspective wasn't even on Theo or even Eli or Lonnie for that matter. And it was just wrapped up. And, Ron is that type of writer where he builds towards these reaction moments. And I have a feeling he's doing that with this storyline where it's shock and awe with the rape, but it's also to, bring out the family feuding, but also the reaction of what happens when the rapist is finally revealed. I feel Ron writes a lot of that. And I heard an interview from when he was still on One Life to Live. He writes with that reaction of where everyone's in a room and the fallout type. And I don't know if that applies to every story because then you tend to miss beats, you tend to miss point of views, perspectives, and you're kind of just writing toward that classic soap staple where, oh my God, what's going to happen and how's everyone going to react type moment. And sometimes or most of the time, it doesn't land, it just falls flat.
It does a lot of the time, and it's sad because those moments shouldn't, but because also I feel like he writes towards those moments, and thus we miss the story beats along the way.
Yeah, and he's been, for most of this year, he's been very plotty. I mean, so plot driven. And you get character moments here and there, but oh man, and the amount of fast forwarding I had to do between I don't like fast forwarding. I hate doing it, but I don't want to sit there and watch two or three characters recap a storyline for me, especially if I am binging a whole month worth of episodes and I am watching every episode. And
Yeah,
I,
the fast forward button becomes my friend.
it does. It does. I haven't fast forwarded on Hollyoaks yet, but I am.
Well, the Edward and Diane story, it tends to be what tempts me the most to hit fast forward. I still watch most
I
of it, but ugh.
I am looking away now from like I usually pull out my phone whenever that's airing, but I am starting to. I'm like,
It's the only weak spot for me in the show. It's very plot driven. It's very it's a lot, and I also feel like they missed some with COVID to the story because I think it was probably supposed to be more something that climaxed during the 25th, and
yeah,
instead it's now not climaxing till Christmas.
I know. And I just read the interview with the actress who plays Diane, and it's supposed to climax, but she also mentioned a love triangle, and I'm like, if I have to in the new year, if we're about to play out this whole love triangle of will she pick him or will she pick Tony, and I don't know if I could do that. I think I'm more for. I don't know why I'm forgiving towards that storyline. Maybe because I have to watch old Hollyoaks episodes like from 2010, 2011 to kind of figure out what I feel towards Tony and Diane. But yeah, that storyline. It's it's dumbing down the characters, and I, Edward's very evil with no motivation whatsoever because we don't really know why he's doing all of this to Tony.
No, we don't, and it's going to be interesting to see it play out. Because there's also some stuff where I've seen the actress dyed her hair, and Like it seems like she's being manipulated by Edward um, to look like his ex-wife, maybe. So it's
Uh,
going to be interesting to see it play out.
oh yeah, and that's probably why I haven't gone to. Whereas an American soap, you feel like you've seen it all. Hollyoaks, I feel even when they go the certain soap trope, I'm not mad at even with watching Maxine's Munchausen's storyline. As much as I'm like, okay, man, just wrap it up already. Um, it's you can tell it's written with care, written with or or written with some type of integrity. Whereas American soaps, they kind of make it up as they go and just trying to fill something in
Yeah.
to kind of meet their deadline. But yeah, I have to sample the other UK soaps. I haven't because of time and the constant back and forth of do I want to invest my time in another show and that type of deal. And
Yep.
I think EastEnders is the one I want to sample, but I also see a lot of good things for Emmerdale too.
Emmerdale is hit or miss. I I don't know. Right now for me, honestly, it's not as strong as it could be.
Mm,
Um, it's mm, it's got a great cast. It has um, some interesting stories, but it also has a couple stories that are dragging it down. And the ones that are dragging it down are the ones that are on the most. So
mm.
overall, for me, it's not where it used to be because Emmerdale used to be, in my opinion, one of the better shows. But it's one that also suffers from having so many episodes a week.
Yeah,
So
six episodes a
it's a
week,
lot.
right?
Yep, and
Yeah.
it's just too much. So for me right now, it's probably Hollyoaks number one, uh, EastEnders number two, then oh probably Coronation Street and then Emmerdale. And it hurts because Corey's got its own list of problems, and it's just it bores me a lot of times. But right now, it's got a lot of character driven stories, so it's definitely up there. Play because honestly, I'm really interested to see how the end of the adult domestic abuse storyline goes with Yasmin and her husband, and then I'm interested in seeing the end. There's a storyline going on where a child's about to die. That one's
Oh,
breaking my heart, but there's all of this story coming out of it because the kid's about to die of whatever disease he has. I just can't remember at the moment. But at the same time, the stepfather just found out that he's got his own biological son with a character that's been gone for 10 years coming back. And then you have the relationship of this other family falling apart. And like all of it's very much intertwined and exploding from within in a way that you could see it actually happening in real life. But that's not to say Corey's without its problems because the way that they use their black cast is offensive. Like it's terrible. Like they're just the token black family on the show that comes out once in a blue moon for their scenes, and it's just they played up an episode around the time that the Black Lives Matter movement picked back up steam, and they were talking about the racial issues, and they got all this accolades for it, but they
is
don't
the scene
use
where,
them.
if I'm not mistaken, that's the scene where I think they were at a bar and
Hmm.
he calls out the racism
Yep.
with his boss.
Yep.
Oh,
It
but that
it it felt so as somebody who watched the show, it felt very much like a very special episode. Like it was
mm,
hey, let us do this real quick. And that's not the first time Corey's done that. They did a very special episode for something else, and then they don't talk about it again. And it's like, well, that's cool, but how about you just tell me stories with these characters and I'll care a little bit more.
It's very afternoon, after school special
Yeah.
meets Bold and the Beautiful,
Yes,
which I've been
100%.
following what's been happening, and I think what Bold and the Beautiful has done with their Black cast
Ugh.
and the Steffi's pill addiction storyline that was non-existent, that just what lasted 2 weeks
Yep.
was so offensive because we all know someone who's been addicted, and the way they just sold it. I actually thought Jacqueline McInnes was chewing up all the scenery, and I mean it was still a gut wrenching performance, but the storyline has no impact when there's no through line or no care, and why should anyone care? And when you're putting that type of message out, oh, she gets addicted to, but they also took the stereotypical route. That's very dangerous to put out there.
Yep.
And just the implications. So I'm guessing that was all just to speed things up so she can go into this romance with her doctor, which I think violates what HIPAA laws and just a conflict of interest and all that.
It was just, it's disgusting, and it makes me so mad because they're rushing to the finish line, and that's what the problem is they want so badly to tell now the sin story that they're just rushing it to get there. And had they just taken the time to develop them and to tell the story, it could have been like literally what put B&B back on the charts. And instead, it's dumb.
And they don't even do romance right. I
Nope.
mean, I know
And I'm
many
tired of these
people.
off-screen breakups.
Oh, absolutely.
It's so annoying. Like, why am I investing in it?
Exactly, and I'm guessing they brought. I saw they brought back the Avon family. I know Rick and Maya, which first of all, you don't ever push Maya to, especially when you told the transgender storyline, won so much acclaim, accolades for that storyline, but then go in an interview and and pretty much say she's your leading lady, and then the following year just kind of undo all of that, and then kind of sideline that family that brought in viewers and brought in much acclaim, and kind of why people were talking about the Bold and the Beautiful, because no one really from from what I see, no one really goes crazy for the Bold and the Beautiful unless they're bringing back Sheila or any of those, or
Hmm.
Taylor being the shooter, or just one of their many stunts. And of course they're talking about it again because of the dolls and the mannequins and the
But
Hope
that
doll
gets
that
you
I
some
saw.
short-term talk, but doesn't get you long-term viewers.
Exactly. You do this whole PR press tour, this whole campaign of, oh, we're the first show, we're doing, and then you talk out of your ass and say, oh, we're doing mannequins, blow up dolls, and then lo and behold, he actually does the Hope blow up doll, straight out of Passions with Timmy. I mean, what works for one show doesn't work for your show necessarily. But again, Bold's been the show that's been writing like a telenovela and kind of dumbing everything down for because it has so much success overseas. So, but yeah, just seeing that because Passions was actually my first. So
Yep, mine too.
yeah, so
But
I
ugh, like I've learned
still,
from there. Like that's the thing is I love passions. I do. I got nothing but great things to say about it. But I'm evolved. Like I can't like I'm watching old clips of it now because people on Twitter keep posting it, and I just yeah I don't know if it would have lasted in the Twitter days.
yeah, no, I'm the same way. Like
It's so rough.
Passions was my first soap, and I love Passions, but I can't really sit there and call it like, oh, it's high art, or oh, it's my when I'm
That's what it is.
yeah, like I don't want to grade soaps on a metric scale, but if I really had to put a show on number one, I wouldn't put Passions. I mean, I'm happy I watched Passions because okay, it opened the doors for me watching all the other shows. But and Passion, I guess when you're watching, Jim Riley's type of storytelling, it kind of lets you kind of suspend all disbelief, not only in daytime but prime time. Um, but yeah, it's Passions was an interesting show. Like I still wonder if Jim Riley was being, very meta, or wanted it to be a parody, or wanted it to be, kind of a um, like that soap that's looking in on all the other soaps.
I was hoping to see what it would be like without him in charge.
Yeah, well, I actually did follow it to DirecTV.
Me too.
Yeah, and
That was awful. It was awful.
it was, and then Pilar's friend in Mexico, she's running the cartel, and that whole revenge story that took up most of the final season. I still watch it now because it's fun scenery too. But oh my, and just the amount of sets that they couldn't even use because you can tell like the budget got slashed during that final season. And you probably remember it. It started off as 4 days and then it went
Yep,
to
to
3,
3 and then 2, right?
2, yeah, and oh, it was a mess. It was a mess, and just that whole final season, and it's crazy to me how Teresa managed like all the storylines from the whole entire series got exposed or wrapped up within that final week.
That final week, like everything in the entire show pretty much was done. And
I'm like, really?
and then Antonio came back, and
Yeah, and apparently he was the love of Sheridan's life all along. And I'm
because
like,
they wanted to deal with Fancy, like
I'm like, I I started watching when Noah and Fancy first came on, and they definitely had more chemistry than Luis and Fancy or Noah and Paloma. But yeah, oh man, it is what it is. That whole final year, whatever happened. So I know a lot of people stopped at the NBC finale because, yeah, again, who would want to switch to DirecTV?
yeah. I watched. I don't know if I watched it at the time, but I watched it online because they had that like Passions was ahead of its time. It really was. They did
Yes.
a lot of streaming stuff early.
Yeah, NBC, they
And
would, I think it was like $7 or $6, where all you had to do was pay $6 or $7 for a
yep,
pass, and you'd be able to watch online, which they or iTunes, I remember they were really ahead
yep.
of its time before the Netflix coming in, and then Hulu, and just a myriad of streaming platforms, which also, seeing what the UK shows are doing, they're putting their classic episodes online. It just makes me even more mad. But they also stream American shows for free. I know E4 does it. Just seeing that commercial, like the biggest streaming platform in the UK, and they do it for free. Whereas here in America, it's like you have to charge. It's like you're charging them $15 for HBO.
Mhm.
But yeah, I privately torrent. So
I do too. Like I
yeah,
watch. I mean, it just depends. I don't do as much as I used to, but I also pay for a lot of content now.
I used to torrent back in before 2012. Right when they shut down Mega Upload,
Yeah.
and and that's when cable providers were monitoring what you downloaded. It was a
Very
crazy
much
time.
so. I forgot
Yeah,
about all
and
that.
had to find a different, and I paid for a File Factory account, so I'm able to usually find everything that
Yeah.
way.
Usually,
So,
there's
yeah,
a lot of good
sometimes,
content.
yeah, sometimes you kind of have to kind of scout the internet if you can't find it on there. But but I even saw you were watching Classic Bold.
Yes.
The Netherlands. I know one. I think
Yes.
it's
There's a
one of the,
website. I can send you the link later, but they are posting episodes.
it's one of their streaming platforms, right? That's
Correct.
yeah, I read that. Like after like searching for it, I'm like, wait, I'm like they're putting it on their streaming platform because that makes sense. If they wouldn't put it on their main site like RTL, I think it's the network that airs Bold down there. But yeah, it's um, I'm also at a standstill with the soaps. I mean, I don't really do the CBS soaps. I don't know. I don't like the CBS soaps much.
No, I've
But
never been really a CBS guy, anyways.
but, but you tend to stick with it for the
I
podcasts, right?
do. I do. I watch them, and then because I enjoy talking about the genre, but like of
No,
the
same.
US ones, like it oof, B&B is just frustrating. Y&R can be either really good or really bad.
I see a lot of people talking good about it again, and with the Devon, Elena, Nate storyline, I saw chatter about
That's
that.
yep. That's the only good thing on Y&R like this week, but like it's so hit or miss. So
And
hit or miss.
I just can't stand the cast of YNR. But same thing with B&B. Something about the cast. Yeah, and then with with the way actors behave, on social media and just behind the scenes gossip or rumors that you hear over the years. It's something about YNR and B&B just really turns me off. But same thing with General Hospital. Yeah, it's pretty much if you behave the same way on the UK shows, you're fired within an instant or suspended.
Mhm.
But in the American shows, we just seem to give a slap on the wrist, or if you fight with fans and then over saying stuff like, "Oh, our president's not racist," or kind of, or try and bait your other co-star. Oh no, but again, tweeting stupid stuff. The publicists on these shows, they're terrible. They don't do their jobs. Or they don't put a leash on their co-stars. And I, I, I'm very much that person that thinks, if you say something stupid like Brian Craig, just a couple of years ago, it's not the best example, but him threatening to break someone's fingers. I'm like, well, yeah, you should have been fired or suspended for that because really you should not be showing out or searching up your name or feeling some sort of way over some Twitter. And you're just going off like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be something interesting to see what the rest of this year brings, for sure.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Days. I keep wondering if they're gonna do some type of twist to kind of shake things up because at the end of it all, I would like to watch this, but even with all the returns, there's like nothing really keeping my attention. Even when Sammy returned, it was just too plot driven for me. Like
Mm.
actors there just to serve whatever the plot was.
I'm really waiting to see what the show looks like come January. Once
Yeah,
the scripts all run out, that's what I'm interested to see.
because Ron tends to zigzag. He'll go through these slumps, but then he'll do something crazy that kind of gets you back talking about the show and really excited for what he does next. But this year was definitely an interesting year for it. Very tune in, tune out. Much of, but also last year had its problems too. But I don't think same level.
No, but for me, the time jump was a flop.
It was very much a flop, and as I think you guys were very correct in saying applaud him for trying to push to do new things. I think that's so important, having a writer, who's pushing to do new things and let it play out and go from there. But as much as the time jump idea, it inspires, a lot of potential. It didn't really go anywhere because, even in its interviews, you got excited. When you think about a year on soaps, so much could happen unless you're Josh Griffith at Y&R or Brad Bella on B&B. In theory, a lot is supposed to happen within that year. And it just seemed like, one event happened in 2020 and
they didn't do anything with it. Like they literally just they dropped the ball so bad. So
like, you mean to tell me, just that one event, like on Mother's Day, changed the course of everything? Even the initial direction, a car crash, that's what we've been building to. I think I would have accepted everyone being cloned at that point, or like a sound stalker, or when they all ended up on the island type of deal. Because if you're, especially for Days of Our Lives, like if you're gonna do that type of story, you might as well play with the narrative, play with time, but also do something crazy at the same time.
So if anybody can do it, it would be Days.
Yeah, and Ron is that type of writer. He does, but I know Ken Corday was giving him notes like crazy this year, and then he stopped giving him notes apparently.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a big gamble, just I love talking about soaps. But even though I love the soap genre, just my love for the American soaps, it kind of dwindles. And I was thinking about that the other day, was it really better when I was a child, or were they just writing?
They were. No, they
yeah,
were. That's the thing, is like if you watch the old episodes, even just from a dialogue perspective, it was better.
It was, yeah. Like I watched when I was in middle school, after Passions ended, I discovered Bold. Even back then, Bold was pretty crazy, but the dialogue was a little bit better. It was around the time when Phoebe died and Rick and Steffi were getting into a relationship, and Ron Moss chewing up all the scenery, and Thomas blowing up cars, or from what I remember, and Pam being rehabilitated after trying to kill Donna at Big Bear with the bear and the honey.
Oh yeah.
Even Bold was very crazy, campy, and going that Passions route back then. But there's something about the dialogue, because